News Talk ZB international correspondence with Fisher Funds, specialists in managed funds and KiwiSaver.
Good morning, it's 12 to 7 on this Labour Day, a holiday breakfast through till 9 o'clock. Richard Arnold's our correspondent in the States. And Matthew Perry, Friends star, back in the news.
Yeah, morning, Tim. Seemed to have it all, didn't he, at one point? Back in the 90s, Perry, as one of the stars of Friends, was one of the biggest names on TV. This joke-telling Chandler being on the show, he won an Emmy, seemed to have the talent to go far, did not happen. We kept hearing about his boozing and addiction, so we thought we knew the situation, but his memoir is coming out this week, and it includes some pretty devastating disclosures. One headline is that he almost died at age 49, so that's 4 years ago. At that point, he acknowledged that he suffered from an intestinal perforation. Now he says he spent 2 weeks in a coma after his colon burst from opioid abuses. After that came 5 months in hospital, and he had to use a colostomy bag, a plastic bag used to collect waste from your body, for 9 months. He says he was first admitted to hospital and put on a heart-lung machine, and doctors told him at that time that he had a 1 or 2% chance of surviving. 1 to 2%. He reveals he was in and out of rehab 15 times. That on Friends, the only year he was sober all through was in season 9, year 9 of the top-rating show. At one stage during Friends, he was taking, he says, 55 Vicodin a day. And the boozing. Several years ago, he told this story on air to comedian Bill Maher about celebrating his birthday at a fancy hotel in LA, then stealing a huge ornamental tip jar to fill with wine that he'd stolen. And then, at least recognizing that he could not drive home, he asked the hotel to call him a taxi. Then he said,
car pulls up, I get in the back seat, I sip from it, and start to belt out some of the most drunken directions anybody's ever given anywhere. I think I can only pronounce the letter L.
Yeah, so everybody laughs.
And the guy turns to me and goes, what the hell are you doing? And I realized I hadn't gotten in a cab, I'd just gotten in the back of somebody's car.
So he ran his own place as a rehab site for a time. He's tried to overcome all this and to help some others. He now says he's telling his story because he is, quote, pretty safely sober. He doesn't reveal how long since he had his last drink. Hopefully he is at some turning point. But this has eaten up more than half his life, and he says those who read his book called Friends, Lovers and the Big Terrible Thing, many of them, he says, will be surprised at how bad it got at certain points, leaving him with all sorts of scars, including those from the 14 surgeries on his stomach so far.
Now, a quick update on Salman Rushdie following the attack.
Yeah, another story on the price of fame, I guess. It's 2 months since the author Rushdie was stabbed by someone in his audience when he was giving a talk, ironically, about artistic freedom. That is, of course, no misty concept for Salman Rushdie. He's lived much of his life under threat after publishing his novel The Satanic Verses back in '88, a book inspired by the life of the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad. At the time, Iran's Ayatollah Khomeini issued a so-called fatwa condemning Salman Rushdie to death for supposed blasphemy. So he's lived with those threats, but in August, just as he hoped his life was becoming more normal after all these years, the fellow came from the audience and attacked. That man now facing attempted murder and assault charges. This was a very brutal attack. Now we know just how brutal. Salman Rushdie's agent has revealed that the writer has lost sight in one eye and the use of one hand. The nerves in that arm apparently were cut. As well, Salman Rushdie had 15 more wounds in his chest and torso, so his friend and agent declines to say if Rushdie remains in hospital. But at this time of increasing nationalism and extremism, it is apparent that Salman Rushdie will not recover from at least some of his injuries.
Richard Arnold is our correspondent in the States. Thanks.